I'm headed for a land that's far away, beside the crystal fountain. So come with me, we'll go and see the big rock candy mountains.
And we're back. This is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with 0 qualifications, and
I'm Steve.
Yes, it worked.
And there we go. If you happen to be watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll love you for that. We talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to have fun, try to keep it interesting. Also, please, if you get a chance, don't forget, check out our sister channel, the Great Classic Movie Debate. Now, tonight, you guys want to go right deep into red meat.
Hold on.
We
Hold on. We want to stop for 1 second.
All right.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
When's the first big, when did you first go to the West Palm Beach Expos or the Braves for the very first time in your life? A bigger baseball, not high school. I'm not talking about that, but the next level up.
Probably when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade.
Okay, so you were like me. You went over to saw the Expos or the Braves.
Paul, what was common, and it may have been for you, but at least among my either classmates or little league teammates or whatever, if somebody had a birthday, the dad would take a big group to it was the Braves. I'm trying to think if it was the Braves or the Expos. It was both. The Braves were spring training, but the Expos was the West Palm Beach team. Yeah. So we did that. I mean, I did that more times than I could count.
Wow, I never. So we would go to the games,
and I think that you could probably get 10 kids in there for $1 or something like that. Yeah, that's very inexpensive.
The reason I ask is we're talking about sound versus light. And can you remember the first time you were at a bigger stadium and you see the ball hit the bat?
Right.
And the ball's moving, let's say past the pitcher. At that moment, the crack of the bat hits your ear.
Right.
So are you seeing that phenomenon? Yeah.
Of course. And when you're a little kid, that stops you in your tracks. Like, what
I know. That's what I was trying to explain to Steve. Like, what the hell? How is that even possible?
Yeah.
And then, so anyway,
it happens all the time if you ever go see
hockey.
Mini Kiss at an arena, you can hear them, but then you look out in the crowd and you're like, I can't see them. And then you realize, it's because they're only like a foot tall. But I was trying to make a rock joke.
Oh my God.
Somehow, so.
That was good. All right, Kenny, sorry. Go ahead.
So we're going to do AC/DC tonight. And I guess this probably doesn't require a ton of introduction because everybody watching knows AC/DC. Now, I'm going to start off by saying this. I feel like compared to you two, I'm probably at a slight handicap here. And all I mean by that is most of my knowledge of AC/DC songs is going to be based upon what you will hear on classic rock or whatever, or in movie soundtracks, but not so much that I've listened to full AC/DC CDs, not too much of that. So, however, as always, with each of my choices, there will be a little backstory that goes with it, which I think keeps it interesting. So if that's okay with you guys, I'll go first.
Before you go first, and it's great. Let's talk about, we've talked about this on a show twice, that AC/DC, when Back in Black came in, that was the first I'll say 50% of classic rock's first introduction to AC/DC, but that's with Brian Johnson on Back in Black.
Correct.
Now remember, that came when I was about 15 years old. Okay. So then I started hearing about, and then I think the album Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap was released after that in the United States.
Correct.
I don't know when Highway to Hell.
Oh, okay. Well, my first choice is going to incorporate all of that. So
no, but the thing is, I was like, hold on, I don't understand. I did the same thing with Dio and Black Sabbath. Remember, I was starting to learn. I already knew Led Zeppelin pretty well, but I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. That people had to educate me. Oh, that was the original singer. Bon Scott died,
right?
Or Ozzy was kicked out or fired or whatever, left Black Sabbath. Right. So, audience, there's a body of work with Bon Scott, and then he died in 78. Steve, 79,
79, I think
79.
And then they went out to get Brian Johnson, who incidentally is from England. He is not Australian.
Oh,
So-
okay. All right.
So
Interesting.
now you can
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay.
And
All
there was
right,
a big
so-
language barrier when he
Big.
auditioned for him.
Right, I'm not getting his voice dying.
It's not a knife. Okay,
Not a
so we're going to go all the way back to the fall of 1979. Okay.
Ooh.
And so I'm a sophomore at Auburn. And remember now, this is a completely different time and place as far as listening to the radio. There's no YouTube, there's no MTV, those things don't exist. So you scan the radio dial trying to find a radio station that sort of fits the bill as to what you want to listen to. There was a station out of Montgomery, Y102. Montgomery's about an hour from Auburn. And the thing I liked about them was not a lot of boundaries. They played just about anything. The DJs were given a lot of latitude, and they played full-length album versions. They didn't play the 3-minute radio edits. They played full-length versions, which that was the price of admission right there. I mean, like, wow, this is great. So I used to keep one of those small plug-in AM/FM radios by my bed when I go to bed at night. I'd keep the music low, but I'd let the music play even while I was sleeping. I didn't care. Well, this DJ who would come on at 11 o'clock on Sunday night, I don't remember his name, but apparently he was more ambitious or whatever than the other DJs, because he would open his 11 p.m. until morning show virtually every Sunday night with Highway to Hell. And I had never even heard that song. And imagine I'm just getting to bed and laying down and relaxing, and all of a sudden this thing comes on, and I'm going, what in the hell is that? Oh my God. So I've never heard it, but it's a shock to the senses when you've never heard it and you're hearing it for the first time. I mean, you could probably say that about a lot of AC/DC songs. So I'm sitting there listening going, wow, who is this? So he eventually identified them as AC/DC. And he didn't say anything else about them. I didn't know they were Australian. I didn't know the name of the lead singer. I didn't know anything about them. All I know was it was AC/DC, and this song, again, a shock to the senses. So because this was my very first introduction to AC/DC, and because that song, Highway to Hell, even after all these years, it still stands the test of time. It hasn't lost any of its pizzazz or energy or anything after all these years. It stands just as strong now as it did. That's 44 years ago. So that's gonna be my first choice. And I also want to just add that as I was looking through songs to choose, I was trying to, I only chose one song from Back in Black, and I chose probably the one that is least played. I just didn't want to make choices and have you go, okay, well, yeah, that's the song anybody would have chosen or whatever. So anyway, so I'm opening things up. Highway to Hell, Bon Scott, lead vocals, 1979.
Steve, great choice. It's an awesome song. That whole album is pretty darn good, and I'll wait till my turn. But and Kenny, with AC, I know some of their songs fell into the Stairway to Heaven and Hotel California, where they played that album to death, and I got to where I never wanted to hear Back in Black again as long as I lived.
Right.
And although if I go to listen to it now, I'm like, this is awesome, dude.
It's a great album,
but
it's just that it's hard to play it without saying, wow, they have just flogged every song on here.
Yeah, squeezed all the blood out.
You know, yeah. But it's a great album.
You're up, Steve.
I was going to say, so my list, I don't know if, are we going in order of best?
No, you just pick your.
Okay.
Pick whatever.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I'll make a comment. Yeah. So on Highway to Hell, that holds a special place in my heart because I got a funny story for me, only because when I was a senior in high school, before a football game, I got the entire team singing Highway to Hell in the locker room before we took the field. And looking back at it now, I'm like, it was kind of, a little embarrassing, but I was 17 years old or whatever. But I remember it fondly because I went out and I had 2 interceptions during that game. So
nice.
But that is not on my top. I started with a top 5 and then I had to expand it. And I don't know if I could put these in any order, so it's very difficult for me because they're certainly one of my favorite bands of all time.
So pick another song then that you want.
Yeah, I'm going to start with top 5 for me. Let There Be Rock, which is off of the Let There Be Rock album, which was I think their 4th studio record. And Paul, you made a note about like Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, I think was actually like technically their 2nd studio album. But
yeah, I think that's right.
The 5th one released in the United States. But Let There Be Rock is just such an anthem. I first heard it on, I think it was AC/DC Live, one of the live records, and it's just like a 9 or 10 minute song that when they play it live, there's a very long guitar solo. And I think if you watch AC/DC Live at Donington, which came out in 91, it's got like a nice 7-minute guitar solo, which I know a lot of times people don't like long guitar solos, but this actually works. This is probably one of the best like live guitar solos because it's Angus just doing his typical antics. So it's a lot of fun. Right. And if you're not that familiar with it, check it out. It's a great, just a great epic masterpiece, I think. So
okay,
that's my number 5.
All right, so I'm gonna pick one, and I think the beginning of it, and one trademark of AC/DC is the beginning of their songs are all so at the beginning. Like every song we're gonna pick today, that's got a unique beginning, right?
Yep.
So the song I'm picking is "Whole Lot of Rosie." And it's a very simple no. And he starts, and the first time I heard it, I was at my friend's apartment and we were doing, things. And I was like, hold it, did he just say that woman's 24-56? Like, she's gigantic. And then he says, you could say she's got it all. Not exactly pretty and not exactly small. You could say she's got it all. And I'm like, no. And then the band kicks in, I'm like, oh, I'm hooked. And it was like, man, and that song is. Go ahead, Steve.
The best thing about AC/DC is what their songs are about. They're only about one of 2 things.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to do a deep dive into the lyrical
I know what I'm going to get for every album. They're all going to sound the same. Fine by me. No ballads. I'm going to get 3 chords, A, D, and G, just played in various orders, and that's it, with a nice kick-ass solo, and we're good. So, but if you watch live back in the day, they used to have a big blow-up doll of Rosie.
Oh, did they?
It was like 50 feet wide. Oh yeah.
Never mind. I'm gonna keep it clean. All right, Kitty, your turn, buddy.
Okay. And I just want to add this thought real quick. One of the biggest compliments I think that any of us as a group, whatever we could ever give, because we talk about this a lot, rock bands, successful rock bands, hard rock bands who soften their sound or who go mainstream or who's turn into ballads. Man, AC/DC never compromised. I mean, not even one iota. Their music was pushing the edge of hard rock just as much at the end as it was at the beginning. There was never any compromise. And for me, that is just the ultimate compliment that you can pay a band.
Yeah,
okay.
I would say you could put your fists in the air and do this to the same beat, and for the entire 2 hours of their concert, and it's the same beat over and over.
Right.
That's just it's kind of crazy.
But it's still all right. Kenny, your turn,
okay,
buddy.
So as you guys know, and I've talked about this before, I spent quite a few years DJing, and I DJed all kinds of different events, a lot of wedding receptions. But for me, I think my favorite type of job was what you would call just an outdoor party. It could be at the beach. It could be a cookout. It doesn't matter. It's just an outdoor thing where there's a lot of people and they're drinking. And it's not so much about dancing. It's just about giving them a good, solid music backdrop, creating an atmosphere, and you want to keep the music the kind of thing that makes people either tap their foot or pump their fist or whatever. In a lot of ways, you could say it's even similar to the songs that you hear when you're at a sporting event. Okay, those kind of songs. So anyway, my next choice falls sort of into that category, and it's going to be Thunderstruck. Okay, because let me tell you, when I'm playing. And also, I did not include "You Shook Me All Night Long," which is probably easily their biggest hit and all that. But that song has the same sort of, if you're a DJ, it's a great song to play at events like that, because everybody's going to like it and everybody's going to sing along with it and they're all going to rock and they just love it. But Thunderstruck, yeah, song that everybody likes, everybody knows it. It has that opening. I mean, the moment that first note hits, everybody knows. They don't have to sit and try to figure out what song is this. Everyone knows instantly what it is, and it is a crowd pleaser. Yes, and I just always liked it. So that's going to be my second choice, Thunderstruck. Oh, and by the way, I'm trying to sort of blend Bon Scott and Brian Johnson choices. So there you go.
Well, I'll say is I love Thunderstruck, and because there was a while there. Now Steve's going to disagree with me, where I think AC/DC has a dearth of some hits and dearth of good songs. Steve's going to contradict me, but when I heard that song, okay, they're back. As soon as I heard that, I was like, wow. And Agreed. Steve could play that on guitar. So I heard you play that once on guitar. Go ahead, Steve.
Wow.
Paul, I would not disagree with you about the 80s was kind of like the
second half of the 80s.
Yeah, second half.
Yeah.
For those about to rock, which came right after Back in Black, they had that handful of albums that didn't do so well. Now I've since gone back and listened to them over the last couple of years, and there's some real gems in there. So
I'm sure there are, but for whatever reason, radio didn't pick up on it.
Yeah. But it's Thunderstruck. You mentioned that was actually going to be my number one song.
Okay, it's a great song.
And again, yeah, it's one of the first songs I learned. Well, I shouldn't say it wasn't the first song I learned to play on guitar, but that was one of the first I tried to learn to play on a guitar. And that opening riff, I mean, it just takes so much dexterity on it. And it's very close to Eddie Van Halen with a lot of the hammer-ons and pull-offs. So there's a lot of that going on. And so that's my number one song. It is the first song that really turned me on to AC/DC. I think I was in junior high. I had heard of AC/DC before then, but I hadn't really listened to them. And that album came out, I think it was in the 8th grade, and that just really turned me on to AC/DC. And you hear it at stadiums. In fact, the Broncos, they play that before every home game as they have the parachuters jump in and land in the stadium to Thunderstruck. Nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So they play at a lot of the hockey games as well. So yeah, I agree.
It was about 91, wasn't it?
I think it was 90 or 91. It was off of Razor's Edge, which was probably their last truly really great album for me anyways. Okay. And I don't have any of their more recent stuff in my top 10, but there's still some good songs here and there. But
okay,
Paul, you're next.
Okay, so I'm going to quiz you, both of you, see what your knowledge is.
Okay.
When they have this song, "For Those About to Rock, We Salute You," feel free, either one of you, where did they get that phrase from?
Well, I'll confess, I didn't know that there's any specific origin. I would have just thought it was something that somebody sat down and wrote.
Yes.
Okay, this is when I was an actor in Hollywood for a little while, and I had to do the History of the World, the Mel Brooks comedy. And that's when I started reading the script, and there's a scene in there when the gladiators would go into the gladiator pit. They would raise their swords. "For those of us about to die, we salute you." They would say that to the emperor.
Wow.
So AC/DC took this phrase that, "For those about to rock, we salute you." So I remember this is one of those things, like, for 20 years I sang that it's not a stupid song, I really like it, but I'm like, oh my God, it's like a tidal wave of information hit my brain. And I realized they were way ahead of me and us, obviously. That's where they got that from. So I'll just pick that song for those. It's a kind of an anthemic song, and it is.
They close out their concerts with it.
What?
If you haven't seen it live, they bring these cannons out on a stage.
Oh yeah.
I think I saw that
for the finale. They just start firing them off. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a great song. It starts a little slower and it picks up, and it's like it's one of those Hall of Fame anthemic rock songs. So I just really like it, and I did like that second album a lot. I mean, for those about to rock, I actually like that album a lot.
Well, it's also it's worth mentioning that because Back in Black was such an enormous international success, right? Sold millions of records and made AC/DC a global name. They were already big in Australia. Now they're big everywhere. It was critical that their next studio album, not Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, but their next studio album, it had to follow on the heels of Back in Black, not necessarily surpass it, but it had to at least sort of measure up to it. And that song right there accomplished that, because that was another great AC/DC rock anthem that anybody who liked Back in Black was going to like. No way around it.
Steve, next time you watch Gladiator, when they come out to fight in Rome, the other guys raise theirs, and Russell Crowe doesn't say it. All the other gladiators are saying, and he doesn't say it. So pay attention.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think it's Steve's turn. I don't know.
Yeah,
or
Steve's
Kenny's
up.
turn. Yeah.
All right. So number 4 for me, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. And that's off the Let There Be Rock album. So again, I picked 2 from that record. Again, it's classic AC/DC. I never heard that until I actually heard one of their live albums, and I was like, what is this? And a lot of AC/DC songs I didn't realize, I discovered off of their live albums.
I got a question for you, Steve. Did Brian Johnson sing, and I should know this, the Bon Scott songs?
Yes. And so that's what's very unique about it too, is that a lot of the little catchphrases, things that weren't like real lyrics, just like things that in between lyrics, he would say, yeah. Brian Johnson, that Bon Scott would say like, yeah, between some lyrics. When they play them live, Brian Johnson would mimic it and would do the exact same thing. So
cool.
So when I was a younger kid, it was a lot of times it was very difficult for me to figure out, okay, was this Brian Johnson or was this Bon Scott singing?
Right.
And I didn't realize, again, like when I was in junior high, it's like I didn't realize that there was a singer before Brian Johnson. It wasn't
right.
Okay.
Same here.
Let me add this thought real quick, because after Back in Black got so big, and I heard somebody say, they changed the lead singers from the guy who sang Highway to Hell. Remember, that was my introduction. I was going, what? No, yeah, no way. No. You're confused. There's not 2 guys that sound like that.
I looked at the album cover of Highway to Hell, and I was like, well, which one is Brian Johnson? Because it doesn't look like him.
Right.
None of these guys look like Brian Johnson.
Right. Man, I don't know how hard it was to find that guy, but
they on the Metal Show they had him on there, Brian Johnson on there, and he talked about it, and I forgot that it was a really cool story. He's a really cool guy. Like when you talk to him,
okay.
Like I forgot. Yeah, we should look that up and talk about that another show.
I think if my memory serves me right, they had an audition, and I'm not even sure he realized who he was auditioning for.
I think that's right.
Agent called him up, and he's like, "Okay, I'll just go audition." And he was like, "Oh, it's AC/DC," and then he assumed he probably wasn't going to get it because they were, kind of a big band at that point. So
sure, yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of funny. He didn't even know who he was auditioning for. So
whatever. I'll just show up and all right, Kenny. Go ahead, buddy.
So I'm going back to another Bon Scott song this time, and again, I try to steer away from the ones that I just think have been played too much. But I like this song, and I don't recall the name of the album. The song is Sin City. I think it's a great 70s AC/DC rocker, but has not been beaten to death on classic rock.
Which album is it on?
I don't recall.
It's off of Power Age.
Yes.
Which the hardcore AC/DC fans say that's their best album. That's not my personal favorite album, but that's what they say. A lot of them say that.
I'm not familiar. I think I have that. I'll have to get.
The best track on that is like Gone Shooting, which that's one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
Which did not make my top 5. Top 10, but not top 5.
That's all hard. All right. My turn. It's the song that follows Highway to Hell, and it's called Girls Got Rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's a real catchy, you're like back down here, round here, girls got rhythm, the backseat rhythm. So you're like, you just can't, like, all of a sudden, like, you're driving, you're singing, like, I didn't mean to sing. I just started singing. I couldn't help it. And so I like that song a lot. So
the lyrical depth again of Bon Scott. It's amazing.
I wonder what that song's about. Okay. All right, Steve, your turn.
All right. So this is unlike any AC/DC song that they ever made. For one reason, it's not a ballad because they don't have any ballads. But it does have bagpipes.
I know where you're going.
It's A Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. And that was my first introduction of Bon Scott when I saw the video of that when I was in high school. They actually played it on Beavis and Butthead. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh my God, this is AC/DC.
They got bagpipes on this
really
video.
off their first studio album. And it's got bagpipes in it. And it's, as you know, Bon Scott in his prime. And yeah, it's just awesome. I love the fact that it's got bagpipes in it. And they don't use it on any other, there's no other song that has bagpipes in it from AC/DC. So
well, the cool thing about that song, and since I can't believe neither one of you two brought up, that's the song they play or copy in School of Rock. The movie with Jack Black.
Wow.
So I
didn't
might
even occur to me.
I was like, I think. And then they, at some point in the movie or after the movie, they play. I'm like, that's AC/DC, and then I had to go back and buy that album. Forgot what it's called, but
there's one interesting point about that. Most of AC/DC songs are all standard tuning, but I have racked my brains scouring the internet, and it's probably out there by now. But for years I couldn't find the tuning for that song. If you can, there's a thing called guitar tab, which is basically just the chords and the notes of a guitar song. But nobody could understand. They knew the chords, but they couldn't get it right in the right tune. And so a lot of people believe like that record, the entire record is tuned down like a half step, which none of their other records match that. So it's just kind of interesting if you're trying to figure out how to play. If you want to play along to that album on guitar, there's some weird tuning going on.
Well, maybe, and I'm way out of my depth. It has something to do with the bagpipes. So they want to match the bagpipes some way, or I don't know.
It could, but I think the rest of the songs on the album are
same way
detuned. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you want to explain to Kenny the drop D tuning and all that kind of stuff, or you want to do that another time?
Let's do it. Let's do it another time because we're going to run out of time here soon.
All right.
Let's each do one more song and then we got to wrap it. My next choice is going to be, and I'm going to revert to Back in Black, which I've tried to kind of stay away from, but my choice is Shake a Leg. Okay, so first of all, I like every song on the album. Okay, there's none that I don't like. I like every song. This one I think is probably less overplayed than most of the other ones.
Oh yeah,
and it's just catchy. I just like it. I think it's a great song. So there you go. I'm choosing one song.
I don't know if I've ever heard that on the radio.
I don't think I have.
No.
I agree. It's a great song. It's probably the least played song on that album.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna cheat. I'm not gonna cheat. I'm gonna be whipped out and pick for Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. I just love every time I come on it. I could get a real cool mental picture of this guy sitting in his house. He needs money. Just, hey, you don't want to kill your wife? No problem. I'll do it. $10. You know, it's like they must have met some guy. Oh, I'll do that for you. You know, I'll bring the gator and I'll stick the crocodile on and no one will know.
Right.
You know, like $12, 12 quid, you know.
Right.
They probably did because like Rosie was a real person that they knew as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, at least I heard that from Bon Scott or Angus. So
their whole reputation was sort of being from the rough side and playing in tough bars and that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean they embody it to the max. So if this lyric is based upon some real person, I'm not going to be shocked by that.
I mean, Bon Scott liked to fight. You hear all these stories like they would. You guys suck, right? They was going to fight the audience and some bar. Like they didn't give a shit. They didn't care.
Yeah, I think that song just embodies Bon Scott 100%. Like everything about him, just like kind of a badass. He's always running around with the shirt off. But yeah, I'm sure he knew somebody that was like, yeah, we'll kill somebody for $10.
Right.
Yeah, dirty deeds. I mean, just the alliteration. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. You're like, wow.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
All right.
Okay, Steve. One last choice here.
So this is my last one. Actually, this is my number 2. Thunderstruck being number 1, but it's Back in Black. I heard that song for the first time in the car when they released AC/DC Live. And I thought it was a new song. I was like, what is this? I'm like, this is awesome. Never heard it. And then it took me probably about 3 months to realize, oh, this is off of an older record. But it's been overplayed to death, but I didn't want to penalize the song or any other track from that record. I mean, there's not a bad song on that entire record.
Not.
It's probably
one of the best albums.
Their best albums of all time. So.
Yeah, and that song has that same quality that You Shook Me All Night Long or Thunderstruck have. You can play that if you're DJing. You play it at a crowd, and it lights them up. They just love it. Come alive. Yeah.
There's a British band that Steve doesn't like. They're called Turbo Wolf, and they do a cover of Back in Black, and it's about 20% faster tempo. Okay. And the song works, in my opinion, 100 times better at the faster tempo. And he just, and it's almost like a metal song. Like we're there, it's like, and then when the guy gets the solo, it's really, man, I'm just telling you, I love back at the song, but their cover is awesome. Anyway.
I'll check it out again because I remember you introduced me to them a while back. I'll take another listen, but Back in Black, that's the first song that my band, when I was in college many, many years ago, that was the first song we played together as a band. So
yeah, wow, Steve was in a cover band of AC/DC. They call it Tesla Edison. Do you get it?
I get it.
Tesla Edison.
Edison.
Oh, really okay, I get it. Okay, yeah, I get it. Oh, wow.
For those of you see The Prestige, and that joke will make sense to you.
Right. A great movie, by the way. You should see it anyway. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Now, what we normally do is when we make nominations to our list of classic rock songs that should be played on classic rock stations, but aren't. But we usually stay within the topic of what we're talking about. And AC/DC doesn't really have anything that should be played that isn't, because classic rock is very generous with their AC/DC. They play a lot of different songs. From what I can tell, they play a lot of songs by AC/DC.
Yeah,
I will say this. What I'm going to throw out there is check out "Love Hungry Man" off of "Highway to Hell." That's probably my favorite song off that record because I've never heard that on the radio. And you also actually hear the bass line in that song. It actually starts with the bass line. So it's just interesting that you don't hear a lot of bass. It's hard to hear for me to pick up the bass in a lot of AC/DC songs because they're a guitar driven band with two guitars.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any final thoughts?
Go back and listen to Appetite, Chinese Democracy, Guns N' Roses. That album is incredible.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's good. Okay, and I guess the Dolphins are playing in a few minutes?
Yeah.
Are we all watching that game? Okay.
Oh,
all right. Well, anyway, so then for now, that's going to be a wrap. This is the Great Classic Rock Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
Yes, and if you happen to be watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Don't forget to check out our sister channel, the Great Classic Movie Debate. We're going to go watch football. So until we meet again, we'll see you next time.